indicated that you wanted government to be within their spending limits, which means they're going to have to cut back programs. You also mentioned that those people, you only want things to be beneficial for the people of America. Well, you can't cut a program and be beneficial.
There are a lot of redundant programs on the federal level.
I agree with you. So my question to you is how are you going to identify which programs get cut, or do all of them across the board get cut? And the second question to that same issue is how do you cut money and still maintain programs, whether you cut the programs back or not? How do you cut $11 trillion out of the budget and make programs succeed?
This, on the issue of budget, the first thing we got to do is identify every penny the federal government spends, not just what they're considering in the confines of the federal budget. Right now, what they consider the confines of the federal budget is what they're taking for their health insurance, their paychecks, national security, what they have to supply for national security. They're not taking. The one thing that people don't understand is that's about the confines of what they're considering the deficit or the budget for the federal government. The entitlement programs, all the other programs are not confined within the federal budget. The first thing we have to do is we have to identify every penny that they're spending and place that within the confines of the federal budget. Once we do that, under the responsibility of the federal government, anytime, and I propose this, and it'll be on the website, anytime something is proposed as any type of spending by the federal government, behind that spending bill there has to be a 102% decrease in spending in another part of the federal government. So if they've got $1 million proposal that they're placing in front of the Senate to pass, they have to have 102% of spending come behind it from somewhere else from the federal budget. Then they're going to have to make a choice. Is this program more important to the people of America, or is this program? Which program can we cut now 102% of $1 million out of to get this program? What that's going to do, and it's not going to drop a lot for that one program, but that's going to bring the budget down 2% of that spending bill. That bill will go in, 2% will drop off, and every year, every time they propose something, it's going to go down and down and down and down until we come out of a deficit.
Okay.
I mean, so it's not an overnight process. It's nothing you can just stand up and say, okay, we're going to cut $20 billion. We can cut $1 trillion here. But it is going to be a process. One of the first things to do is get a bill passed that actually puts that in place, so they know if I feel like we need $2 billion to build a bridge in Ohio, they know that 102% of that spending has to come from somewhere else. So they can determine what's going to be more important, what's going to be more beneficial to the people of America at that point. So, and the other thing to do is start finding out exactly where the redundant spending is. Like a lot of earmark spending, we have to do away with. That's just redundant spending. A lot of that we can take care of right from the start, and that'll start bringing some of that deficit down.
Okay, and in the Senate, there's another 199 individuals that you have to convince.
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to do that?
First of all, by bringing out the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. And essentially, as a senator, we are supposed to ask ourselves, is this constitutional? There's a lot of senators right now that teeter-totter on the idea of whether something's constitutional or it's not constitutional. Should I do it? Should I not do it? Should I go with my peers? They're very easily poked at and swayed in either direction. To get these senators swayed in the direction of actually going by the Constitution, those senators not going to be too hard. The other senators that are either a lot further in or a lot further to the left than I am, they're going to take a little more convincing. I'm just going to have to sit down, take a lot of time, and actually sit down with the Constitution, with the Bill of Rights, with the Declaration of Independence, and start going through certain bills or certain legislative processes they're trying to pass it, and convince them that it's going to be the wrong thing to do, if it's the wrong thing to do.
Okay. It's been my experience working with government entities that 2 plus 2 does not always equal 4.
It should.
It should. It should. But common sense tells you that it should.
Yes.
But I've been audited multiple times, and I still have that I still get that attitude that 2 plus 2 does not equal 4.
Right.
So how are we going to get around that?
I don't think that we have to work around that. I think 2 plus 2 should equal 4. I think having accountability not only by the law of the land, but by the Constitution on a federal level, is a must. By getting in, and it's a funny thing because as the administration moves forward, you can very clearly see that they hold certain individuals accountable and not other individuals. The reason is because there's more people that point the finger at somebody, so they totally forget about what's going on over here. Oh, well, it doesn't matter that Chris done that because we're pointing at Sarah Palin today. The idea is to get in there, and instead of start pointing fingers at everybody, making everybody mad, is to get everybody in the same idea and the same frame of mind. And that's to basically have something that's put down, that's already in place, and to let them know that this here is the law of the land. This is no exception to federal senators. This is no exception to legislators. That from this point forward, and we're going to have a little help from the Supreme Court to put a little pressure on people. But if anything happens against the law of the land, that our senators and our legislators need to be held accountable for their actions, and they need to be not only held accountable, but the same punishment be held to our senators, our legislators, that every American's held to, because they're not above, any average American. They should hold the same punishment and the same accountability as everybody else does.